Hi everyone. So I wanted to follow up on the video that I did last time on retention, and I want to show you some of the data that I actually got from when I launched the game, Hidden Animal Pals, which I haven't really shown. I'll do a video on that next and what that game actually looks like. That might help as well. But to be honest with you, it shouldn't really matter what my game looked like. It shouldn't even matter what it is, and in the same way, it doesn't really matter what your game is. What really matters is how do people react, what is the behavior, and that will show you and be a really good indicator of whether you should continue developing on your prototype or on your demo, and whether you deserve investment or help from publishers or anything along the lines of that. Now, I know a lot of the stuff that I talked about in the last video or retention video may have sounded a little bit conceptual and a bit theoretical, so I want to follow up now with something a bit more practical, and I can't think of anything more practical than me actually showing you the data. So here it goes.
All right, so I've got a bunch of tabs open. I've got a whole bunch of tests to show you, but let's start off with the first one. So first of all, you're looking at ByteBrew here. This is analytic software. ByteBrew is an SDK that you can add to your Unity projects, and it allows you to see different types of data in your project, and you can send that data anytime a user does something. You can trigger an event, and that event can be stored on your analytics dashboard where you can then analyze it and understand what's actually happening or not. So this is from the one of the first tests I did for Hidden Animal Pals, and it's from August the 20th to August the 27th. So this particular test that I did on the first soft launch, I wanted to test two things out. The first thing I wanted to test was, are people going from level 1 to level 10? Um, are they successfully going through each level? And in an ideal world, you'd have 100% of people complete level 1, and 100% of those people would complete level 10. And there would be no churn. And if you remember, churn means people kind of leaving the app, or something bad happening and they stop playing the game. That would be the first thing I wanted to test. The second thing I wanted to test was, do does everyone complete the tutorial, which is really the most important thing. And obviously, if the first thing that I tested was 100% true, then the second thing would be as well. But I kind of knew that wouldn't be the case. So those are two things I wanted to test. Both of those are really important. The tutorial one is probably, if I'm going to be honest, the most important thing, because if everyone could complete the tutorial, the higher percentage of people that complete the first level of the tutorial, the more people can go on to complete the actual game. So if something's wrong with the tutorial, then it basically ruins the whole experience. So those are two things I wanted to test. Both of those required just a few things, a few pieces of data to be sent back from the app, and that would actually showcase a lot of what was right with the game and what was wrong with the game. So if you look at here, we've got some funnels set up where what I did was, after every level was completed, I sent a little bit of just an event was sent back to the dashboard that showed that level 1 was completed, level 2 was completed or started, level 3 was completed, and so on, all the way to level 10. So we can see here, if I go down here, all the people that started the game, 100% of people started level 1, which is, hey, that's great, right? That means everyone who opened the app looked at the menu and pressed start button on level 1. Brilliant. That's a really good start. Uh, Obviously, you never know. Maybe there was something wrong with the menu. Thankfully, that wasn't the case here. 100% of people started level 1. Unfortunately, there's a huge drop off, which you can see here. Only 73% of people started level 2. I mean, that's a massive. That's to be putting it bluntly, that's unacceptable. That means something was fundamentally wrong with level 1, which is the tutorial. And if we keep on going, we can see this drop off is quite consistent, right? 70, 50, 20 to 30, 10 to 30% of drops here, constant drops. So finally, level 10, only 1% of people got to level 10. That's a really bad look for a game. So obviously this isn't this is what I envisioned. This is not what I imagined, but this is really important. When you're a developer, when you're building a company or you're building a game, it's important to not, you know, live with this fantasy of my game's going to be perfect, everyone's going to love it. It's important to be grounded and be realistic. And the way you can be realistic is to just find out what the real situation is. The quicker you do this, the better it is for everyone. And the best thing about this is if you find out things are not okay, you can fix those things and you can fix them sooner or later. So someone who's helping me out, a great developer called Andrey. He's also runs a studio. He gave me some advice about the data analytics, and he also said one other thing you should do is don't just have level to level analytics, but also have a breakdown of the tutorial. So now I'm going to show you a little bit about the tutorial and what might have happened to cause this 30% drop. Okay, so by the way, I will go into why I think some of these other drops occurred as well. But for now, let's just go into the most pressing things. And the tutorial is very the onboarding aspect is very important. All right, so my tutorial was broken down into a few steps. The first step was there's a few objects that you have to collect. The first one was a very simple one, and basically everyone completed that. 99.46 people completed it. The 1%, if it was a 1% drop, that's fine. It's acceptable. I mean, in total. So this is good. This is fine. Here we have almost a 10% drop, and this involved the user looking around to find a squirrel and an owl, and they had to move. The control system meant moving their finger on the screen to look around. This caused a 10% drop. So that is huge, right? So I now know there's something wrong with the control system. That's the first thing I want to point out. The second thing is there was a point where users had to tap to move. That seemed okay. 1% drop, not ideal, but okay, probably acceptable. I could let that slide. But here they have to look for a cat, and we can see that actually there's quite a bit of a drop here, close to 7%. So again, let's just say close to 10%, more than 5%, closer to 10%. And this involved them having to look around again. That's not a good look. That's a bad sign, right? So looking around from these two drops here, we can see from this drop here, from step 2 to step 3, and step 4 to step 5, we immediately know that looking around causes a drop off, causes a churn. And there's something wrong with the control system, or maybe it's just the demographic don't play these types of games where they have to look around using the controller, the screen. So that's a problem there. There's also a drop right here, about 5% for buying. There's a point where you kind of reward the user, and you reward the user by allowing them to buy an accessory. Now, I think that although I don't think there was anything wrong with this, I just think that the accumulation of all of these different factors of onboarding, these different elements of onboarding that we're taking about, the user has to go through these different steps, looking around, tapping the object, um, you know, walking, moving from one step place to another, and then ultimately buying an object. All of these things added up, and it can be overwhelming. For me as a developer, it's super simple. For someone who's a game designer or someone who plays a lot of games, it's when you're building the game, it's so natural. You know exactly what to do, but users don't. And this was a clear sign that I need to make some really big changes. So if I go back 1 second here, we can see that again, level 2, it included some more moving around and looking. So we also get a big drop as well. Because if people struggled with the first level, they're going to struggle massively here. and there was movement again the third level. So at this point, when it gets to level 4, those people who can't move around, who are struggling to look, are all going to go. And then you're really going to get, it's a little bit of a slower decline. It's still a decline, but it's a bit of a slower decline here compared to this huge drop. So these people at this point, they can probably look around, they can probably move around, but the game in general was probably just too hard for people. And when I look back at what this version of the game looked like, it was quite difficult. Um, so this just caused people to just feel as though they were not capable enough. Um, Way too high of a steep learning curve, and way too much, just way too difficult. Okay, so this allowed me, this data that I'm showing you allowed me to look at this game and remove a couple of things. It was really sad. I'm not gonna lie, it was really sad about having to change and remove the movement system and the kind of the system I created to look around, which was quite basic, but look, it didn't work. It was fundamentally flawed, and I needed to fix that. So that's what I worked on after this first soft launch. And I'm showing you this because I'm hoping on some level you'll be hearing this if you're a developer, and you'll go, okay, maybe there's certain elements of the game that I'm building that I should test quickly, because if you don't test this stuff quickly, what's gonna happen is you're gonna build hours and hours and hours of gameplay. And those hours of gameplay, actually, if you're a game developer, you know hours of gameplay takes weeks, months, sometimes even years. And it could all be wrong because your fundamental core is is flawed, and people can't even get past the first level. Users are dropping off in the first level. And if that's happening, then they won't even get to like the 20th hour of your game, or the first hour, or whatever. Or past, in my case, they didn't even get to the 20, barely got to the 20-minute mark. So this was a really good thing for me to learn. Painful, really painful, but I mean, that's a good lesson for anyone. And hopefully, me going through this lesson will save some of you some time as well. All right, so here I was. Imagine this, and I know I'm showing this to you, and you're probably looking at this, going like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, okay, cool. Like, things didn't work well. Not bad, not bad. But you have to put yourself in my shoes. Like, I worked really hard. Um, I spent a lot of time building this. I thought it was going to be amazing. I was looking forward to, hitting 30% retention on day one, and here I am hit with this kind of bombshell of people aren't going to come back to my game because they can barely get past the first level. Like, I'm losing, look at this, I'm losing 30% of people after the first level. Think about that. 30% of the people on the first level. How are you going to get 30% of retention on day one if you've just lost 30% of people on the first level? It's crazy. So this is something you want to test very quickly. And it hurt to experience this, but look, this is why it's important to do this. And this is why, good publishers, good studios, good developers are trying to explain this to people who are getting into it early. And although I knew about this, it was the first time I was really, really applying it from a game development point of view. And I've now learned to do this a lot quicker. Now, okay, so I decided I could have ditched this game, or I could, at this point I can decide, can I make some shifts and changes? And I decided to make some shifts and changes to the gameplay. And I've removed certain things. So I'll go over to the next test, which was in September, right? So this was in September the 10th to the 15th. Now it took me a bit of time from August to build this, more than I would have liked. But look, sometimes that happens. Things happen in life, and I made some changes to the game I removed the aspects of the game where you were looking around a lot and you were moving around, because I think those are fundamentally damaging the experience for the users, especially the demographic that I was targeting. And here we go. We got way better data here, right? 100% of people started level one. 100% of people started level two. That's more like it, right? People got through the tutorial. Now, I would have been okay if this had dropped a little bit by a couple of percent, maybe even 10%. I would have been okay with that. But this is really cool. Um, but there is some drop-offs here still. I changed the way people look around, and that meant that the drop-off wasn't that huge, but there's still some drop-off here. There's a bit of a drop-off from level 4 to level 5, and I think that was based off of the new system that I implemented. Now, if you remember, I said on level 1 there was a lot of onboarding in the on the first soft launch. On that particular soft launch, I had moving around, looking around, I had like purchasing an item, and I decided now to spread that across the levels. So you don't move around, you don't look around, you don't do any of that. You just All you do on level 1 is you just tap on the objects to basically find them. So that's a lot better. Now, looking around was now introduced on level 4, and this is what I was worried about. Like, would there be a big drop off or not? Also, level 2, there's a bit of a drop here, more than 10%, which I think is unacceptable. I'm making this number up, by the way, but in my head, if it's more than 10%, there's probably something wrong. Like, if you experience that data analytics and game development, and you think 10% is acceptable, or actually maybe it should be lower, maybe it should only be 1%. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. But I think this is unacceptable. I later found out that there might have been a bug in my menu that after level 2 it stopped working on certain devices and certain because I caught it at one time. It happened on my device where you couldn't actually select level 3. Um, and I think that might have been happening. So I think a percentage of people actually were just basically kicked out of the game. This was a churn based off of a bug, which it has to be fixed, but it's not in my opinion, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's an easy fix, and I'll come on to that with the third launch. But this drop here, level 4 to level 5, this is a little bit concerning because this is when I introduced a new way of looking around. The drop rate here, it's a 12%, which is not great, but it's not the worst thing in the world compared to what it was in the first version. But there's still quite a steady drop here. It's quite a large drop from level 5 to level 6. Um, so there's something wrong here, and I believed it was to do with the difficulty as well was still a little too high. Again, it's something you got to work on, something you got to keep on. You got to find that sweet spot between difficulty and fun. So this was a legitimate issue here, um, and we only got 16% of people starting level 10, and then that's huge improvement compared to what we had before, which was 1%, right? So massive improvement. If you look at it from that point of view, 15% improvement of getting to level 10, and 100% of people get to level 2, whereas before we only had 70%. So a bit of an improvement there, but there is a certain aspect of this that needs to also be taken into account, which is the game was made a little bit easier, and certain aspects that might have challenged the user were removed, which meant it took people less time to get to level 10 as well. So that needs to kind of be taken into account to some degree as well. Positive, but you know, I would have still liked this to be higher. I think this would have been better if around here it was around 50 or 60%. And instead of it being a steady decline, quite a steep decline here, this is a bad sign in my opinion. I would have preferred it if it was a bit more steady, maybe little to no decline here. Similar to this. This is okay. I think this is not okay. So again, the second launch, which was in September, second soft launch, allowed me to see that some of the changes that I had made were good, we're kind of on the right track, but I still needed to work out what I need to do, what I need to add to kind of improve retention and reduce churn at these kinds of points here, level 5 to 6, and even level 9 to 10 as well. So that was kind of a challenge that I needed to try and to work out. Or again, I could decide at this point I'm gonna ditch this game and move on to a different game. This is all part of the decision making that has to be made. I decided it's a bit of a learning experience for me as well. Let me see before I ditch a game. Uh, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a good idea to stop working on a game and move on. But before I do that, I want to see, can I work out what it is that's broken? Um, because if I can work that out, then even if I ditch the game, at least in the next game that I work on, I can apply some of those learnings and increase retention and reduce churn on the next game. Otherwise, what I'll do is it was a risk that you just ditch a game, you go on to the next game, and you haven't fundamentally understood what was wrong in the first place, and you're just repeating the same mistakes but on a new game. That's what I didn't want to do. So I think continuing on for one more test and to see if I could improve this was probably the right decision. And someone else I'm working with, Stuart Radforth, great, amazing guy. He also helped me kind of review this as well. And we both looked at this and felt like, look, I mean, this is a huge improvement. Like if I just flick through this, like a massive improvement, right? So we're on the right track. And if we can have one more improvement like this in the next soft launch, which is soft launch 3, then we might be onto a winner. Right? We might really be onto a winner here. So this is soft launch 1. This is soft launch 2. Huge improvement. Still some problems around here, right? So what can we do here to improve this? So what I decided to do at this point is to just say, let's add in a story because my game was missing that. It was a little bit more of a hyper casual, and I wanted it to move into hybrid casual zone, uh, maybe even eventually casual. And I felt as though a story would help with retention, just to give people a reason to continue playing and a reason to feel purpose, really, which is I think something that was missing in this version of the game. So I went on to soft launch 3. Now, soft launch 3, I warn you, if you look at the date, it's the 26th, it says here. That's actually today's date. So this data is live. It's happening right now. The soft launch isn't over. If I hit apply, it might even be different to what you just saw now. We'll find out when it loads. But this is the data from level 10 to, from level 1 to level 10. And I wanted to see, and there's level 11, there's a couple more levels here. It goes up to like 16. But this is going to show us where we are now, right? And so we can immediately, if I show you this data here, October soft launch 3, and I compare that to soft launch 2, let me just shift this up a little bit so we can see it identical now. So it's almost identical. Soft launch 2, soft launch 3. Now we can see some subtle differences here now, right? You can see how that curve is changing. If you look at this curve, it's although I lose a few people, this is soft launch 3. Although I lose a few people between level 1 and level 2, actually it steadies out here now. Level 6 to level 7 is steady. We don't lose anyone. Whereas in in soft launch 2, we were losing people still. This is a really good improvement, right? I know it's not phenomenal, but it means that people are retaining, a few more people are retaining because although we're losing a few more people early on, the people who are staying on for longer and are persisting more. And hopefully that would continue on. I mean, that's the goal. That's the idea. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. It doesn't from the first glance. I mean, I'm still gonna be analyzing this over the next day or so, but it looks like we're not getting. I mean, 42% retention on level 9. We had 37. It's an improvement. It's about a 5% improvement. Um, Still a drop though. Level 7 and 8, there's a drop here. It's a big drop here, which I don't like at all. That's a huge drop. It's close to 15%. That's massive. And there's a drop here, level 9, level 10, almost 20% drop here. Again, not acceptable. If this had steadied off at level 6 to level 7, and it had continued on, I would have said, you know what, we've done it. Like, this is it. This is a really good game, and it has a lot of potential, and potentially we can start looking at the day one, and maybe more people, we could retain people on. But what's actually happening is there's a massive drop here, and what we did differently here in level between this soft launch and here, we introduced at level 2, we introduced the story. So at level before this game even starts, and this is really important to add as well. There's like a 1 minute and 30-second story that is occurring before level 1. So although we have 100%, this is actually massive. You might not realize this, but for me, this is huge because 100% of people started level 1 and 100% of people sat through that story, which is really good. That means to me that people didn't just quit the game and go, I don't want to watch this, forget this, cut this game out. But it might have been a case that they started the story, decided, oh, I'll just have a look at the game and see what it is, and then decided, oh, I don't really like it, and then quit the game because level 1 is ridiculously easy. They might have just decided this game isn't for me, which is a bit of a shame, but it's okay if it steadies out and continues. Unfortunately, it did steady out, but it didn't continue to steady out. It dropped quite dramatically here. So this would mean, and what's concerning for me is that level 7, 64% of people started, but only 50% of people started level 8. And just in between level 7 and level 8 is another story. Now, it's possible that people started this story and decided, I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm not interested in this story, and they quit. It's possible that they um, just took a break at this point. This is probably around about 10 minute mark as well around here. It's possible that they just needed a bit of a break and they'll come back. It's just, some people do that. So that's possible too. It's possible that we see this jump up and, people saw the story and thought, oh, this is a good time for me to come back. I'll come back in a bit. Um, but it's also possible that this is a sign that this game and the way I was trying to retain people isn't going to work. So it's a bit of a shame so far, anyway. I'll keep an eye on this, and maybe I'll do a future video, and the video will just be, hey, it didn't work, or it will be, hey, this continued and this improved, and that would be really good, and then let's look at day one. Um, so this is the basic data analysis I've got now. I've got a little bit more on day one and so on, but I think for this video that I wanted to show you, I wanted to show you just how important it is to see the day zero analytics and the level to level, in between level to level in analytics, and the tutorial, your onboarding analytics. This stuff is super easy to add to your game, and you don't need more than 10 minutes of game content to work this out. And you shouldn't be working on an hour's worth of game content. You shouldn't be working on a game for an entire year before testing this stuff out. Now that I've seen this, I realize how important it is to prototype a game out quickly, get it to a decent enough standard, which I think I did here, and then test out that. I don't want to say demo. I think the word demo is the wrong word to use. I think prototype. This is still prototype phase. Because it only really becomes a demo once you know that you've got that formula. because then that's the demo for the rest of the game. But if you don't really know you've got that, it's really still a prototype. You're still prototyping this out, and it's better to get that quickly. And I mean like within the month. If you can get a prototype tested within people within the month, you'll know. And again, once you tell yourself 5 to 10 minutes of content and getting that perfect and understanding who your market and demographic is so that you know your market and demographic will look at your graphics and go, this is the kind of game I want to play. They look at the control system or they try the control system and they're used to that control system, they should complete that 5 to 10 minutes of content, and you should have a high retention between those levels. And if the churn is high, then hey, listen, you messed up there. So I did this with Bright Brew. I did some Facebook marketing to get this. Um, uh, so that was important, and I learned how to do that from Oscar, who's an amazing guy who was really gracious to give me some of his time as well. All the people who helped me out to game were amazing, so really grateful for that as well. Um, Even down to back to Ian Masters as well, helping me out with the earliest version of this back in January before I showed it to publishers as well. So I've had a lot of help with this game. Really grateful for that. I've learned a bunch of stuff about the retention and stuff. I don't know if I'll be able to continue this. We're gonna find out in the next day or so. So hang tight. I can give you an update. But I figured now would be a good time to release some of this data, and maybe help educate a couple of you people because I have never seen anyone break this down. This is the first time I'm seeing this, and I think it's helped me profoundly. It's something I can take onto my next game, or next company or whatever it is I do going forward. Or maybe if this works, maybe it will allow me to reevaluate this and go into the next soft launch version, the next prototype version. But again, that's something that I'll work out in the next couple of days again. Anyway, I hope this has been super helpful for you. Hidden Animal Pals, I'm testing it right now on a Google Play Store on beta. If this data has been interesting to you, please leave a like. If you have any questions, leave a comment, or if you have any positive to say, let me know. If you have any positive, negative criticism, let me know. Positive criticism, let me know as well. Super interested to hear your thoughts. If you have any advice on what I should do, what I should look into, let me know. If you want to help out in the project, you're just curious, hey, let me know as well. I'll be interested to see what people have to say. Thanks again to everyone who's been helping me out so far on the project. Let's see where things go. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're seeing this on YouTube. And yeah, take care.